I remember as a, although having a full career in dance, and my brother is in some of these pictures too. He danced for Paul Taylor for 18 years. I was lead dancer and was the man that Paul had intended to leave the company to, although Chris died of AIDS during the epidemic. And we all grew up together with these wonderful, particularly my mom and my Aunt Rhoda, who seemed to have a pain threshold of an inanimate cartoon character. And so my mother would have loved the picture before that. The photographer loved it because the dress looks like the profile of Alfred Hitchcock. And I was standing right at the edge of the cliff, so with a huge drop behind me, so my mother would have been really proud of me. And I remember seeing my mother when she was in her late 80s, climbing up on a chair to get something off of the top of a thing and falling. And as she fell, just kind of falling kind of gently, almost looking like she was just falling asleep. I couldn't get to her. I was on the other side of the table, on the other side of the room. And she hit the table, bounced off of that, hit the bureau, bounced off of that, hit the chair, bounced off of that, and hit the floor. And then I saw her rise up out, and she goes, I think I'll take a bath and have an aspirin. And she wandered off. And at 80-something, you're thinking, wait a minute. But she had a way of knowing how to yield and allow an elasticity to take place as opposed to a resilience or a resistance to this, and that really saved her. And I've just seen her fall. She's now, the twins are now 97. And Annie Rhoda still skydives. Mama does not. But anyway, so I had certainly wonderful growing up examples of risk-taking and physical curiosity. And although they were competitors, I did not, nor did my brother, like the competitive route. At the time, feminine beauty was a certain kind of a thing that I didn't really understand and had no intention of being part of. I really was looking for a beauty that was resilient and that was honest, and I wanted a face that was mobile and could express what I felt on the inside and had a truth to it. So I was looking for certain kind of truths and certain kind of freedoms and a certain kind of society that I did not see reflected back to me. So I had a lot of examples and a lot of stories like that. People who had suffered certainly sexual and physical abuse. All of that would come out and shift and change. But again, I never provoked story. I wait and let people come to me and share what they have to share. I stay within texture and quality. You can, considering how modern dance is still predominantly a women's field, although with some of the elite dancers that I teach, now we're having more men than women in our classes, which is very exciting, that there is a balance in that way. But with women, because rape is so prevalent, the chances that you're going to run into it in class are very consistent. There's just never going to be a class that I will ever teach where there isn't somebody who hasn't had that experience, a woman or a man that hasn't had that experience, or the majority of the group. So rather than talking about that, what we do is we deal with where you are when you fall and recover. How do you go in and out of risk, and where is your consciousness, and how can we find other strategies or other possibilities for the consciousness? I began particularly working with conflict resolution primarily, or feeling that I had the abilities in this area as well, particularly when I was in a disenfranchised area of Quebec. And I was presented with a class of remarkably tall young men who were very disenfranchised and very volatile, and remarkably diminutive young women, smaller. And it was really kind of astonishing to me that there were The room was really divided. And the men were very obviously just full of rage and anger and about to explode. And they really didn't want to be there. They were all teenage kids and they didn't want to be there, understandably. Dance is very devalued in our society, so, or in many of the cultures of our society. So um, I began working with them, and finally something popped, and I can't remember how or why, but anyway, I walked up to, we'd been playing with balance, losing and catching your balance, which is a precursor to an exercise called third person, where you dance together with somebody else, but you're relating not to the other person, you're relating to the energy that's between the two of you. It's a way of understanding choreography in nature and how nature choreographs itself, and we being nature do that. And I find people miraculous, just absolutely miraculous in their strategies and their aspirations and their hopes, and how it is when they shift into being able to have those aspirations and have those hopes, and when their challenges become their areas of strength as opposed to just the challenges. And when you're used to a certain kind of challenge, it's really hard to remove it or have a place. So the psychology of who we are and how that affects motion is really exciting to me, and the architecture that creates, or choreography, or ritualized performance. So that's what I'm up to. And I've been blessed to perform around the world and still doing so for 45 years now, almost 46. And I'm working with the Taylor Company and with my Legacy project. And I've got a work that I'm doing with 2 other women on feminine consciousness and our relationship to nature. Lots of political stuff comes in because we are affected by politics and we affect politics. So how do we make those shifts for ourselves and then in the world? And putting those into abstraction and then being able to come up with revelations surrounding that. Oh, I'm old. Oh, this crap, it sucks. My body's injuring. I can't do what I used to do. Because you sort of think, as a little kid, you're in this amorphous place. You come in, you're learning how to be in the world and be concrete in the world and organize thoughts, organize ideas. Okay, body, put your little foot in, put your little foot out, hand up, hand down. Music, hit the note, hit the note, hit the note, and then of course it all becomes more complicated, and where am I in relationship to sound and people and et cetera, et cetera. So going through and then hitting this kind of peak of physical prowess and nuance, in your 40s and whenever, and then boom, all of a sudden one day you wake up and menopause is not, or premenopause, I mean, that moment doesn't seem to happen slowly. It's like, boom, all of a sudden you got to change your diet, change your way of being, change your thing. Everything's now in decline, in a kind of a wonderful return. It's kind of like being freshly old, the newly old. So if you look at it as that, like model, oh yeah, now I'm just beginning to be old. Yeah, what's this about? And you get very sidetracked by pain. We get very sidetracked by pain. We, as a society, like to think of these bodies as these terrible places where pain happens, and then we want to get rid of them. So how do we find the joy in our body and get that joy to talk to the pain? Sort of the very Buddhist connection thing, right? So a lot of that, I do that. And working with models of, so all of my work, I left that out, didn't I, is all based on health, notions of health, psychological health, physical health, moving through health. So as we move in our decline, there's still a curiosity about that. And my feeling is that just as we are more energy cognizant when we're little, as we age, we become more energy cognizant. So my skin now no longer, if somebody pulls me, the skin comes off of the muscle, off of the bone. These are very, very much 3 different aspects of me, and the marrow. All of these feel very, very different than this is my arm when I was younger. So now there's this sense of separation, and between those layers, I feel more keenly the energy that moves between us all. The interconnectedness of things seems almost more real to me than the sense of reality, if you will. So how do we, I become curious about, and just like you're sitting, you're holding this huge pile of crap, shit, basically. Everything hurts, sex is sex, and life is really short. Life is short, just drop it, let it get in the ground and grow some flowers. At some point, you just get, time's short, what you distracted, like curious, and stuck in curiosity, fear and curiosity. If you can shift into this curiosity, you change your relationship to discomfort. You change your relationship to life, and it becomes a real blessing and an honor to experience the whole. We get to understand the fuller sense of the cycle of it all.